Hey everyone, today we'll be talking about parallel lines, transversals, and the angles that are relationships that are formed from them. A line that intersects two or more lines is called a transversal. So you can see here, the line intersects two parallel lines, and it forms several pairs of congruent angles. So the first angle relationship we'll be talking about are vertical angles. Now you may be already familiar with them, but they're formed when you have two intersecting lines that cross, and these vertical angles are exactly across from each other. So for example, angle 1 is exactly across from angle 3. If you drew a straight line, they would cross there. And then angle 2 is exactly across from angle 4. We can do that in the next intersection here. So angle 5 is directly across from 7. And angle 6 is directly across from 8. So these pairs will be equivalent to each other. Next, let's talk about corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are when you have the same angle in the same part of the parallel line, but it may be on a different line. It's in the same part, but it's in a different one. So maybe it would help if you imagined you had like a triangle here. So, for example, 1 would be in the same part of the triangle as 5 is. So we call those corresponding angles. So 1 and 5 are corresponding angles. Let's do 2. 2 corresponds with angle 6. Similarly, angle 3 corresponds with angle 7. And angle 4 corresponds with angle 8. If you have trouble with these, remember you can always just imagine you're creating different triangles here, or squares. It needs to be the same part of the angle. So if it's an obtuse angle here, it should be an obtuse angle here. Now we're going to talk about alternate exterior angles. Now exterior, we know means on the outside. So the outside is here and here. The inside is here. Think of it kind of like a sandwich. The inside, we're not going to be in here for alternate exterior angles. The alternate means on opposite sides. So if we were to have angle 1, the alternate exterior angle would be angle 7. Those are pairs, 1 and 7. That also means they're equal. Now we can say angle 2 is alternate exterior with angle 8. Again, these angle pairs are equal to each other. So when we get towards solving for some missing pieces, these different strategies will help you find them. All right. The next one, alternate interior angles. Alternate interior angles Well, we did alternate exterior, so alternate interior is going to be on the inside of the sandwich instead of the outside. So if we zoom in here, let's say we're at angle 3. Alternate interior with angle 3 will be angle 5. Kind of like you're making a Z. So 3 and 5 go together. And 4 would go with 6. So again, these are angle pairs, so they're equivalent. They're interior, so they're going to only be on the inside there. And they're alternate, so they're opposite sides of the transversal. Opposite sides of the transversal. Since all the above relationships create congruent angles, complete the missing information below using these relationships. First, to ask which angles are equivalent to 60 degrees, and then name the angles in the relationship. So, first, let's find them, then we can start writing them down. So, let's start with 60. Okay, and then I'm going to look for it here. Okay, the first thing I think about is we have the vertical angles. So vertical angles are directly across from each other, which gets us to angle 4. It's kind of like a little puzzle. So angle 4 would be equivalent to 60 degrees. But let's keep going. Okay, so our next angle relationship is the corresponding angles. Now if we go back to our original 60 degrees, we're 60 degrees at this angle. Where would it be on the other parallel line? It would be at 6. Those are also called alternate interior angles. Okay, and we also know angle 6 is vertical to angle 8. Angle 8 is also an alternate exterior angle with the 60 degrees. Okay, so now we're going to write these down. So our first one we had was angle 4, then we had angle 6, and we had angle 8. The relationship I chose for angle 4 was vertical angles. And then I said 4 to 6 is alternate interior, right? But we're talking about in respect to 60 degrees. If we're at 60 degrees, what relationship is the 6? That would be called the corresponding angles. Corresponding. And then last, angle 8, with respect to 60, 60 to 8. That would be alternate exterior. All right. So make sure when you're naming the relationship that you're using not the relationship from one angle to another, 4 to 6, or 6 to 8, or 4 to 8, but from the original measure, 60 degrees, to your angle you're talking about, 4 or 6 or 8. Okay, next let's talk about which angles are equal to 180 degrees. So 120 degrees, Pardon me. So we'll go back. These were our 6-degree ones, okay? And then so the 120 degrees we found here. I can highlight that. So we can do the same pattern. So 120 to 5. 20 to 5, that's vertical. 120 to 3, that is corresponding. And then 120 degrees to angle 1 would be alternate exterior. All right, so now we're going to use these to find missing angle measures. If the measure of angle 6 is 130 degrees, so I'm going to find that measure. It's right here, angle 6. It's saying it's 130. I'm going to go ahead and label it just to help myself out. Find the angle of each of these measures. So let's start here. The measure M of angle 5. If we're at 6, we have angle 5. Okay? When you have them beside each other, that's when you have the supplementary angles. Okay, we talked about that in a previous lesson. When you have a straight line, right, that the angles share, it equals 180 degrees. So 180 minus 30, 130, that leaves us with 50 degrees for angle 5. So that's going to be, I'll change the color here for you. That'll be 50 degrees. That is a different angle. All right. Now let's do angle 3. If I find angle 3, that is what we can call an alternate interior angle, which means they're equivalent. So we can just write 130 without doing any math, calculations and such. Number 2, angle 2, if we go there, well, with respect to 130 degrees, it measures angle 6. Those are corresponding angles. So the corresponding angles are equivalent. The measure of angle 4. So that's here. Now, with respect to angle 5, those are alternate interior angles. So those are equivalent. So we can write 50 degrees. We also could have said that angle 2 plus angle 4 is 180 and subtract, or angle 3 plus angle 4 equals 180 and subtract. Last, to ask for the measure of angle 1. The measure of angle 1 is vertical to the measure of angle 4, which means they're equal, and it's 50 degrees. All right, now it's going to ask you the same thing, but this time you have a different angle. Instead of it being 130 degrees, it can be 146 degrees. And we're starting at the measure of angle 2. That's here, and it's 146 degrees. So if you would like to pause this video here and try it on your own, you may. I'm going to continue. the measure of angle 5 here those have no direct relationship, okay? They're not alternate interior, they're not vertical, they're not alternate exterior, and they're not corresponding, okay? But what we do know is that the measure of angle 6 corresponds to 2. So if 2 and 6 are the same, we know that 5 and 6 form this straight line here, and they have to add to 180 degrees. So if the measure of angle 5, x, plus the measure of angle 6, which is 146 degrees, equals 180, x, or angle 5, would equal 34 degrees. Okay. Next, let's look at angle 7. Angle 7 is vertical to 5, so we can just copy that down. It's the same number, 34 degrees. Angle 8 is vertical to 6, or it's an alternate exterior with angle 2, so that would be 146 degrees. Angle 6, we already said, is 146. And angle 1 corresponds with 5, or is alternate exterior of 7. So that is going to be 34 degrees. You can see once you figure out a couple of them, the rest of them become really easy. It can also help when you're doing these. If you have a lot of stuff going on, you can also use some highlighters, colored pencils, markers, like I am, to help you distinguish which angles you're working with. On the next page, we're going to write an algebraic expression to solve of the following for x. So kind of like I previewed here, we're going to be doing that with the remaining of these. So I'll do one here. These are vertical angles, so they're equivalent. So x minus 9 is equivalent to 49. So x equals 58. But, so that solves for x. It does not ask you to solve for the angle, but if you were to solve for the angle, you would have to say x, which is 58, minus 9 equals 42 degrees, which is kind of redundant, but sometimes you're missing that part. All right. So number 2, think about the relationship between the two angles. Are they vertical? Are they alternate exterior? Are they corresponding? Or are they neither? Okay. If they're neither, like this one, you'll have to find an angle that does go with the 5x. So 120, if you, and 5x here goes here, that's corresponds with it. So that angle would be 180 minus 120, which would be 60. So if we solve this, we would write 5x equals 60 degrees. And we would divide by 5. And x would equal 10, 11, 12. X is 12. All right. So I believe from here, You can do the rest, 3, 4, and 5. You need to solve for x.